Hi, I'm Irina, and today I'd like to explain the nitrogen cycle to you. Nitrogen is a chemical element, and in nature we find it in the form of the gaseous nitrogen molecule. The air we breathe consists of 78% nitrogen, and in numerous chemical compounds. For example, nitrogen is an essential component of amino acids, the basic building blocks of proteins and DNA. Let's look at the profile of nitrogen. Two nitrogen atoms like to bond, so nitrogen occurs as a diatomic gas with the formula N2. It condenses into a liquid at -196 degrees Celsius. A typical non-metal, nitrogen is a colorless, odorless gas with a density close to air. You should already know what oxidation and reduction are, and it's good if you're familiar with the term symbiosis. Oxidation is a chemical reaction in which an atom gives up electrons. Reduction is a chemical reaction in which an atom accepts electrons. Redox reaction is a chemical reaction consisting of two partial reactions, oxidation and reduction. Symbiosis is the interaction of two or more species. Both sides benefit from this relationship. Parasitism is an exploitative relationship between two different species. The nitrogen cycle describes the biochemical conversion of nitrogen in nature. It is present there in its elemental form. However, plants and animals cannot use it in this form. It is therefore converted within the nitrogen cycle into corresponding forms, such as ammonium ions or nitrate. Depending on the conversion process, this cycle is further divided into an internal and an external nitrogen cycle. There are 4 central steps: nitrogen fixation, nitrification, ammonification, and denitrification. This nitrogen conversion is essential for plants in particular. It provides them with nitrogenous proteins, which they need for their growth, for example. The first step in the cycle is nitrogen fixation. This is where the nitrogen contained in the air is fixed in other compounds. To do this, the nitrogen bond of the elementary nitrogen must first be broken down. There are 2 different types of nitrogen fixation. Biotic nitrogen fixation. Only prokaryotes, such as cyanobacterium or rhizobium, can reduce atmospheric nitrogen to ammonia. They use the nitrogenase enzyme to do this. Nitrogen-fixing bacteria break down the nitrogen bond. One example of this is the so-called nodule bacteria. They enter into a symbiosis, cohabitation, with the plant roots. This means that the nodule bacteria supply the plants with nitrogen and receive important nutrients in return. The nitrogen uptake of the plants is indirect because they receive the nitrogen in the form of ammonium ions or ammonia. Abiotic nitrogen fixation. Solar radiation or a lightning strike can cause the elemental nitrogen in the air to react to form nitrogen oxides. In combination with moisture, this becomes nitric acid, which hits the ground as acid rain. Ammonium ions, ammonia or nitrate are then formed there. Plants prefer to absorb nitrate. The ammonium ions and ammonia produced must therefore be converted in the next step, known as nitrification. This is done by certain bacteria, the nitrifiers. They are mainly found in waters and soils with plenty of oxygen. You are also talking about aerobic conditions here. The nitrifiers now convert the ammonium ions into nitrate via nitrite. Ammonia can also be converted into nitrate with the help of oxygen. The plants can now easily absorb the nitrate and use it to produce proteins or other compounds. After nitrification, the nitrogen cycle can now continue in 2 ways. There is an inner and an outer cycle. The inner cycle closes more quickly and includes ammonification as the next step. When animals feed on plants, they absorb all the important nitrogenous proteins and other nitrogenous compounds. These are then digested and excreted again. So-called putrefactive bacteria and fungi are then responsible for the further decomposition of the excreted nitrogenous compounds. This also happens, for example, with dead plants and fallen leaves. This produces ammonia, which can react further to form ammonium ions. This is why you also call this step ammonification. In the outer cycle, denitrification is the last step after nitrification. It occurs in places in the soil that do not have much oxygen. Under these anaerobic conditions, so-called denitrifying bacteria use the nitrate produced in the soil. They convert this nitrate via nitrite either to nitrous oxide and nitrogen monoxide, or even further to elemental nitrogen. As nitrate is reduced here, this step is also known as nitrate reduction. The resulting nitrous oxide or elemental nitrogen is then released into the air. It can then be fixed again by bacteria, for example, and the nitrogen cycle starts all over again. Summary: nitrogen is present in the atmosphere in gaseous form, and can only be used in this form by bacteria such as Rhizobium. Ammonia is formed. Ammonia is first converted into nitrite and then into nitrate. This is nitrification. Nitrate and ammonia are taken up by plants and converted into amino acids, nucleic acids, and much more. Plants serve as a source of nitrogen for first-order consumers. These in turn are eaten by second-order consumers. The nitrogen returns to the soil through excrement and dead animal and plant remains. There it is converted into ammonia by bacteria and partly released back into the atmosphere as nitrogen. I hope you understood everything well and enjoyed watching this movie. Bye-bye. Irina Petrova.